Hello everybody and welcome back to another video here. Today we've got a couple of things to discuss, including a signing that's happened from around the NHL, a couple of waiver updates, some injury updates, and a couple of trade rumors involving the Ottawa Senators, the New Jersey Devils, the Edmonton Oilers, and the Vancouver Canucks. And I'll go to all of that coming up right now. Hello everybody and welcome back to another video here at the NHL Talk Channel. Before we begin this video, don't forget to like this video and subscribe down below. We have hit 200 subscribers. Thank you for all your support. I would never been able to do this without you guys, so don't forget to subscribe so we can hit 250 subscribers. But before we begin this video, I'm just going to do a quick channel update here. This is going to be my last video before I take a week off for a break. I'm going to do a couple of pre-recorded videos that I'm going to be putting out over the next week, but today is Thursday the 21st as I'm recording this video, and I'm not going to do another video until Thursday the 28th. On Thursday the 28th, I'm going to do a quick game review recap discussing the last 3 days before the holiday break plus the first day after the holiday break of games that have happened, looking at the standings, stuff like that, something I usually do in my game review video. And then I'm going to do just that one video on Thursday the 28th, and then Saturday the 30th I'm probably going to start getting back into the rhythm of things, so it will be interesting to see, but that's sort of my plan for here. So this is going to be my last regular scheduled video. I'm going to take a week off, do a couple of pre-record videos throughout the next week, and then on top of that I'm going to be starting back up on Thursday the 28th, so just want to let you guys know. But to start things off today for this last video before I go on my holiday break for a week, we have one sign to discuss. It's not the Bear signing. According to a couple of things I've seen on Ethan Bear, it sounds like he's not going to officially sign with the Washington Capitals until he's absolutely 100% ready to return to game action. So that's probably why we haven't seen Ethan Bear signing yet. So it doesn't really make sense for him to sign until he's absolutely ready to return. So we'll probably get a Bear signing. Probably my guess would be sometime early in the new year when he's ready to play, so it will be interesting to see, but I think that's probably the most likely time we're going to see it. So still no news on the Bear extension, so he's not ready to play yet, but we did get one other signing. The Detroit Red Wings have recently lost, like we talked about in the last couple of videos, goaltenders Ville Husso and Alex Lyon to injuries. Now, I didn't want to really bring up Sebastian Cossa. They want him to continue to develop in the minors, so with that being said, they wound up bringing in a new goaltender via free agency. They signed goaltender Micheal Hutchinson, who's a decent goaltender, sort of a third, fourth stringer at the NHL level, who was a UFA, to a 1-year, 2-way deal with AAV of $775,000 that will be keeping him under contract with the Red Wings for the remainder of this year. Now, this is a really good deal, in my opinion, for the Detroit Red Wings. He hasn't played the NHL level for a little bit of time. Last year, he got a little bit of time playing with the Columbus Blue Jackets. Last year, he signed with the Vegas Golden Knights. He spent basically the entire season in the AHL, and then he was traded to the Columbus Blue Jackets as part of the Jonathan Quick deal. Played in 16 games last year at the NHL level with the Jackets towards the end of the season. Put up a 4.29 GAA and an 877 save percentage, which wasn't overly good. He's played a lot over the past couple of years, splitting time between the AHL and NHL, being a third string goaltender. That's probably what he does. So far this year, he's been playing in the AHL, putting up a 2.98 GAA and an 895 save percentage in 13 games with the Red Wings AHL affiliates, which is why they signed him, called him up. So that's really good stuff there for Red Wings. Now, Hutchinson's not a really great backup. Over the past couple of years, he's not been able to put up an over 900 save percentage, and he's not been playing consistent NHL minutes, so I don't expect him to do overly good in his time at the NHL level. I mean, who knows, maybe he does extraordinarily well, but Hutchinson's, like I said, more of a third, fourth string goaltender, and I expect him to probably remain most of the time the backup to a guy like James Reimer until one of Husso or Lyon are back. I think once one of Husso or Lyon are back from injury, Hutchinson will be placed on waivers and sent down to the minors. I don't think that's too surprising. So Hutchinson's been signed by the Detroit Red Wings due to the need of a goaltender after the Husso and Lyon injuries. So for the time being, it'll be a Reimer-Hutchinson tandem. Then once they gets a little bit healthier and Husso and Lyon are able to get back into game action, I expect Hutchinson to be placed on waivers and be sent to the minors. So not too surprising there. This is more of a minor signing, but this is a really good move in my opinion for the Detroit Red Wings. They get a decent goalie with experience to be the backup for a time being. Even though he's not been the best at the NHL level, I think it could be a really good, decent addition there for the Detroit Red Wings. So I think this is a really good move in my opinion for Detroit to add a backup like Hutchinson for a time being. So really good stuff there for Red Wings. This is a fantastic signing. This is not really slightly over-expensive signing. And as soon as guys like Lyon and Husso are healthy, he should be inserted right back into the AHL after he places on waivers. So really good stuff there. Really good moves there for the Detroit Red Wings as they improve their goaltending depth a little bit, signing Hutchinson. Next, going over to the waiver update part of the video. Like we talked about on our last video on Tuesday, there are 3 players who were placed on waivers. That was Lucas Johansson, 6th, 7th defenseman with the Washington Capitals, Ryan Shea, who is a decent 7th defenseman with the Pittsburgh Penguins, and Jacob Bryson, who's a decent 3rd pair defenseman with the Buffalo Sabres. I said I'd probably expect Shea, given the fact he doesn't have too much NHL experience, he's been mostly an AHL defenseman, to probably clear and be sent to the minors. I said if Bryson had a little bit of a lower cap hit to his contract, I think there was a possibility someone would have taken him. But with this $1.8 million cap hit, I thought there was probably not very much likeliness that he would be taken. So I thought Bryson probably would have cleared. And I said that there was the most likely chance to be cleared by Lucas Johansson. But I thought that Johansson, given the fact he doesn't have an overabundance of NHL experience, probably would have wound up clearing too. They all indeed clear. So Shea's been assigned to the AHL affiliate for the Pittsburgh Penguins, Johansson to the AHL affiliate for the Washington Capitals, and Bryson, I think, to the AHL affiliate of the Buffalo Sabres, but I'm not exactly sure about that one. So really good stuff there. Like I said, Bryson was a decent 3rd pair defenseman. The Sabres have a deep D-core at this point in time, and they don't feel Bryson is a really good fit at the NHL level at this point in time. So like I said, if he was on a cheaper contract, possibly would have been claimed. He's a decent 3rd pair defenseman, but not a $1.8 million cap hit, so he clears. Shea has been a decent 3rd pair / spare defenseman for the Penguins this year. Not been too bad of a player since the Penguins signed him, but still one player who I think is most likely a guy who's more of a minor league defenseman at this point in time, so I'm not overly surprised he cleared. Johansson still has some upside. I still think he's a decent 6th, 7th defenseman, which is why I thought he was probably the most likely of the 3 to be claimed, but he winds up clearing too, so I'm not overly surprised that all these guys cleared. And then after those guys were cleared, no one else was placed on waivers until the roster freeze. The roster freeze is now in effect, so there's no players being placed on waivers anymore until December 28th, and there's been no players who were placed on waivers before that roster freeze kicked in. So those 3 cleared: Johansson for Washington, Bryson with Buffalo, and Shea with Pittsburgh, and those 3 are now all going to be assigned to the AHL, and we have no more new updates here for the waiver update. So interesting stuff there, but that's your waiver update. Going over to a couple of injury updates here from the last couple of days. We've had a couple of injuries here. Husso is going to be out week to week for the Detroit Red Wings due to a lower body injury, and upper body injury is going to keep Klim Kostin out for the next couple of weeks. He's on a week to week basis too, so those are really bad blows for the Red Wings. Kostin's a bad blow, losing a bomb 6 forward, but like we said, Husso and Lyon are going to be out for the next little while. Husso week to week, so it's a big reason why I brought in Hutchinson, because of the injuries to Husso and Lyon. So really bad stuff there for the Husso. Hopefully he gets back in not just in future and doesn't miss too much time. Pavel Zacha has been cleared to play by the Boston Bruins, as was Charlie McAvoy. So those 2 have gone back into game action. Aiden Hill has an undisclosed injury. He's going to be out day to day right now, so a really bad blow for the Vegas Golden Knights. Matt Zuccarello has an upper body injury. He's out week to week right now for the Minnesota Wild. So that's a horrible blow for the Wild to lose a top 6 forward. Then Vitek Vanacek was cleared to play by the New Jersey Devils, and Andrei Svechnikov was cleared to play by the Carolina Hurricanes. Both got back into game action, so really good stuff there for the Devils and the Canes. Kalen Addison has a lower body injury. He's out day to day right now for the San Jose Sharks. Another really bad blow for the Sharks, who lose a solid defenseman for the next little while. Then Julian Gauthier has an undisclosed injury. He's out day to day right now for the New York Islanders. Logan Thompson has upper body injury. He's out day to day for the Vegas Golden Knights. So Thompson and Hill are out right now due to injuries. Only day to day, but both are out for the time being, so really bad blows for the Vegas Golden Knights. Justin Schultz was cleared to play by the Seattle Kraken, but Jared McCann has a lower body injury and he's out day to day. Pierre Bellemare has a lower body injury that's going to keep him out the next month and a half. So really bad blow for the Seattle Kraken to lose a solid bomb 6-4 for the time being, as well as their top goal scorer for day to day period of time. So not great stuff there, but it was good to see Justin Schultz get back. On top of that, we've had a couple more injury news recently. Matt Grzelcyk has an upper body injury. He's out day to day. Mikhail Sergachev has a lower body injury. He's out day to day. And Jamie Drysdale has been cleared to play by the Anaheim Ducks. So really good stuff to see Drysdale back for the Anaheim Ducks, but still lots of bad injury updates here. Good to see Drysdale back. Good to see McAvoy back for Boston. Good to see Svechnikov back for Carolina. Those are all really big additions there. But still, bad to see guys like Thompson and Hill in Vegas, Bellemare in Seattle, Husso and Kostin in Detroit, Zuccarello in Minnesota, all be out for a lengthy period of time. Hopefully they're not out for an overly long period of time. They can get back in the not distant future, but still really bad injury updates for those guys there. And lastly, here going over to a couple of trade rumors. Now, first course, we're going to start things off with the Vancouver Canucks. Elliot Friedman was talking on Jeff Merrick's show in the past couple of days, and he mentioned a team that could have some interest in Andrei Kuzmenko, who was recently scratched against the Nashville Predators, is the Washington Capitals. I don't think this is too much of a surprise. We've seen for a while now that the Capitals would like to add some offense to their team. They're not an overly great offensive team. If you look at the Capitals in the league in goals for, they're currently second lowest in the league, only to the San Jose Sharks, who could not score for the life of them at the beginning of the season. And even the Sharks are only 6 goals back of the Washington Capitals. So the Capitals are doing an awful job scoring at this point in time. They can't find the back end of that. The reason why they have such a good record of 69-4 is because their goaltending and defense has been outstanding, especially Charlie Lindgren, who has been keeping the Capitals in games they probably shouldn't be in, and they've been able to get points when they probably should have. So that's the main reason why. But if they aren't able to find scoring eventually, and Ovechkin isn't able to start clicking on, I think he's gone like 12 or 13 games right now without a goal. So Ovechkin's not doing overly well right now. But if he can't find his groove and this offense still has trouble finding goals, this Capitals team is going to be in a really, really difficult position at some point. So they need to find a way to get some goals. Maybe acquiring a top 6 forward would help them. We know for the past year, maybe year and a half, they've been looking for another forward. We know they've been talking about moving Mantha and Kuznetsov and trying to use that cap space to possibly add a forward. I could definitely see him trying to add Kuzmenko. He's a really good goal scorer. I think he scored over 35 goals last year. He's not fitting in overly well right now with the Vancouver Canucks. Like I said, I talked about this a couple of videos ago, I think last week. I still don't think Kuzmenko's getting traded at this point in time. I still think the Canucks are going to try and figure out a way to make it work, but with him being another healthy scratch 2 days ago against the Nashville Predators, again being healthy scratched, I think it could possibly happen, a lot more likelier than it was at any points last year. So he's making this year plus next year at a $5.5 million cap hit. He's not doing overly well this year, but last year he had a fantastic season, playing on like a first power play unit, playing second line minutes on a team like the Washington Capitals. I think you're definitely refining a 30-goal form. So it would be interesting to see. And Spencer Carberry is a guy who really helped that Maple Leafs power play work extremely well. So I could definitely see the Washington Capitals have some interest in Kuzmenko. Kuzmenko's a really decent forward. I think he could be a very fantastic fit with the Washington Capitals. Now, will the Canucks like to do that move at this point in time? Probably not. I still think they would like to keep Kuzmenko. He's been a really good top 6 forward for them this year, and I still think that they still have some trust in him as being a solid top 6 forward, but still, if he's not doing overly well, if he continues to get scratched, I could see him possibly move Kuzmenko, and I would definitely think Washington is one of the teams who could definitely have some interest. Now, what would they want if they were to trade Kuzmenko? My guess would be something like a 2nd or 3rd round pick and a decent prospect, and it's something I think the Capitals could definitely pull off. They do have a couple of extra 2nd round picks, I think, for next year, so I could see the Capitals have some interest in adding Kuzmenko, and if they keep around the playoff mark by the trade deadline, I could see them have some interest in trying to acquire a guy like Kuzmenko if he does become available. So we'll be interested to see. But according to Elliot Friedman, one team that he's wondering about could possibly have some interest in a guy like Andrei Kuzmenko's Washington. I think that's a very fantastic fit possibly. So I have to wait and see if it winds up coming to fruition. Next, going over to the Edmonton Oilers. For the Edmonton Oilers, there was some talk about this on the recent Insider Trading video on TSN, and they were saying how Philip Broberg still wants out. Now, there was a lot of talk. We talked about this in the last couple of weeks that Broberg wants out of Edmonton. Now, since asking for possibly being out of Edmonton, Ken Holland basically didn't acknowledge the fact that Broberg wanted out. Then the agent came out and said that this is sort of the problem that they're having, that they want a fresh start, but Ken Holland's not wanting to move him at this point in time. So it's sort of like a stalemate between these two. Broberg's currently in the AHL right now. He hasn't really gotten a huge opportunity at NHL level, but definitely I think they at some point will have to move Broberg. I don't see him being a long-term fit with the Edmonton Oilers. And they're talking about this on the Insider Trading video, saying that Broberg is in a unique situation. Now, they know that he wants out. They know that he could possibly be moved for the right price. But another possible option that they could do with Broberg that was mentioned on Insider Trading by, I think, Darren Dreger, was the fact that they could look to try and move Philip Broberg as the sweetener in a possible Jack Campbell trade. Now, we've talked about how it would take a huge piece to try and move Jack Campbell. We're talking about a 1st round pick or a 1st round level prospect. Broberg is a 1st round level prospect. He was taken, I think it was top 10 or top 15 a couple of years ago, and I think it was the 2019 draft, if I'm correct. He was a decent top end player for the Edmonton Oilers, and someone who I think really looked like he was going to be eventually turn out to be a really fantastic offensive defenseman for the Edmonton Oilers. Never really turned out that way. He has barely been able to get into game action, and when he has been playing on the third pair in the NHL level, he hasn't been able to get very much on ice opportunities. He's not been able to put up points like he was during his draft year, so at the NHL level. So really bad stuff there for Philip Broberg, because he hasn't been able to sort of really do that. And I could see him be moved in a possible Jack Campbell trade, because teams would want a first round level prospect in exchange to taking on Jack Campbell. Broberg's a first round level prospect. He could definitely be a really good fit as a possible sweetener for a Jack Campbell trade. So I'm still not sure if that will be exactly what happens. I'm still not sure if they 100% would want to do that sort of a deal where they move Broberg to move on from Jack Campbell's contract. I think it's still possible. I think Campbell still gets a look at the NHL level before he gets traded. But if he continues to put up poor performances at the NHL level like he has over the past little while, I think there's a very likely chance Campbell gets traded. And if they have to move Campbell, and if a team wants a really big, nice sweetener in order for taking Campbell on, Broberg may be the guy who wants the game moved. So it will be interesting to see. But Broberg is a possibility of being moved in a Jack Campbell trade as a sort of sweetener. It's possible. And if he doesn't get moved as a sweetener in a Jack Campbell trade, I still think he gets moved. But whether that be as like just moving him off for another young prospect who's not doing overly well, or a pick, or whether that is moving him as a part of a bigger package to try and upgrade either the defense or the goaltending, that's yet to be seen. But another interesting possibility for Philip Broberg is him moving as a sweetener in a Jack Campbell trade. So that'll be an interesting thing to see. Going with the New Jersey Devils, this was also talked on the insider trading video on TSN over the past couple of days. And Pierre LeBrun was saying how some of his info is telling him that Dougie Hamilton, who's had surgery for his really bad injury update, is going to keep him out indefinitely. He's possibly going to be out until the start of the playoffs. Pierre LeBrun said that it seems at this point in time like Hamilton could easily be out until maybe the first or second round of the playoffs, which would be a really bad blow for the New Jersey Devils. But on top of that would also be really good news, because if they could have Hamilton out until the playoffs, they could place him on long-term injury reserve and use his $9 million cap space to add pieces. Now, they said he wasn't going to add the entirety of the $9 million cap, but there's been a lot of talk around the New Jersey Devils looking at defense, looking at goaltending. They need help at both sides. The loss of Hamilton could definitely be a reason to upgrade on the defense. Plus, their defense wasn't overly great to start the season, so they could definitely use an upgrade on the defensive end. Their goaltending has been nothing more than atrocious this year. Their goaltending has been one of the worst in the league. They cannot find a way to stop pucks, so they could also look to try and add a goaltender. Now, we know they've been linked to guys like Barrie, D'Angelo, two really good top four offensive defensemen. I think that if they were to have Hamilton on long-term injury reserve, there would be a lot more likely of a possibility that they go after a guy like Barrie or D'Angelo. I think they probably want to target Barrie more, given the fact that even though he has a pretty high cap hit, he's a lot more of a really good offensive powerhouse than a guy like D'Angelo is. D'Angelo could be a really good fit, and he is on a lesser bit of a contract, but still, I think they would try and target Barrie first. There have also been some talks with them trying to go after a guy like Chris Tanev, a solid defensive defenseman, so I could see the Devils go have a couple of interests, but with Hamilton out as a right shot defenseman, I'm not sure if Nemec is a really long-term solution for at least this year. I could definitely see them have interest in guys like Tanev, Barrie, D'Angelo, amongst others. If Hamilton's going to be out for the entirety of the season and be able to be placed on long-term injury reserve. On top of that, I think there's going to be a lot of possibility and a lot of trade talks around a guy like John Gibson. The Devils need a goaltending upgrade. I think Dostal's the future in net for Anaheim, and Gibson, we've talked about over the past couple of years, once out of Anaheim. I think at some point he will be traded, whether that's more of an off-season move, given the fact that it's a lot easier to make those sort of moves in the off-season, or a deadline move is yet to be seen. But Gibson, we've heard about a couple of times. It sounds like the Canes have some interest in a guy like John Gibson. It sounds like the Devils could possibly be re-engaging in trade talks around John Gibson. I think they would be a fantastic fit for Gibson. I could see a guy like Vanacek be traded on the other side, have a Gibson-Schmid tandem for the rest of this year, and for the future, I could see that be a fantastic tandem, in my opinion, for the New Jersey Devils, and it would really help their goaltending position at this point in time. So I could definitely see the Devils have a lot of interest in adding a guy like a John Gibson to their team. So if Hamilton's out for the entirety of the season, place this $9 million cap in long-term injury reserve, go out, get a top four defenseman like a Barrie, like a Tanev, like a D'Angelo, who could really help replace a guy like Dougie Hamilton, and then go out and get a top end goaltender, whether that be a guy like Jake Allen or a guy like John Gibson or something else. It sounds like they're possibly re-engaging in talks with Gibson, which is, I think that could be a possibility. But I think that Gibson and the Devils would work really, really well. And I think that adding an offensive defenseman, adding a defensive defenseman will really help that team too. So their forward group is really good. If they can get Timo Meier going, that top nine is absolutely lethal. But their defense and goaltending is definitely holding them back a little bit this year. So if Hamilton is out until the start of the playoffs, this is captain and long-term injury reserve, they should be able to get not only a defensive upgrade, but a goaltender upgrade as well before the trade deadline. So it'll be interesting to see. But it sounds like the Devils could have Hamilton's $9 million on long-term injury reserve until the playoffs, which could allow them to do a little bit more moving around and adding before the deadline. So it'll be interesting to see there. And lastly here, going over to the Ottawa Senators. Now, the Senators are not doing overly well. They're on a 5-game losing streak. They've lost 16 of 27 games this year. They're 11-16-0. They're not doing overly good this year. If the trend continues, then they're not going to be a playoff team this year. Could they wind up being sellers? Now, they do not have a whole bunch of trade pieces this year, but I could see them possibly move a couple of pieces. Now, if you look at their team, they still have a lot of good young players that I don't think they're going to be moving, even if they were to be sellers this year. They still have Tim Stützle, Tkachuk, Norris. I don't see him moving Giroux. Batherson's been really good. I could see him probably hold on to Joseph, given the way he's been playing. Really, Greg, they're probably going to hold on to Crookshanks, Kostelich, Kelly, probably still hold on to Pinto. So most of those guys on the forward group, they're probably going to hold on to. Same thing with the defense. Chychrun is a really good player they really like. Zub's a really good player. Sanderson's a long-term Senators now. Bernard Docker's played really well this year. Korpisalo and Forsberg are probably not going to get that much of attention on the NHL trade market. But there are a couple of players who I could see wind up being moved if they were to be sellers. Now, like I said, this isn't a guarantee. The Sens could go on like a hot streak, get themselves back into a playoff race. But at this current point in time, they don't look overly well. They're lowest in the Eastern Conference based on points. I could see them wind up being sellers. Now, if they are sellers, here's some of the guys who I could see them possibly being moved. Vladimir Tarasenko, final year of a $5 million deal. Senators do have one retained salary slot used up thanks to the Matt Murray deal, but they do still have 2 available retained salary slots, so they could bump his cap it down to $2.5 million. Tarasenko at $2.5 million I think would be a steal for a lot of teams, so I could definitely see Tarasenko be moved by the Ottawa Senators. Dominic Kubalik, same sort of thing. He's on the final year of his deal. He's going to be UFA at the end of the year. He's got a $2.5 million cap hit right now, so I'm not overly surprised that he could possibly be a guy who ends up being moved by Ottawa Senators. He can play middle 6 minutes. He's a really good sniper, so I could definitely see him be moved. But besides those two, really don't see any other guys who could possibly be moved, except for maybe Mathieu Joseph if they wanted to. On the defensive side, I could see a guy like Eric Brandstrom be moved. He's going to be a pending RFA. He's a decent third-pair defenseman. He hasn't worked overly well with the Ottawa Senators, and I could see them move him. On top of that, Travis Hamonic, he's got this year plus one more season at $1.1 million cap hit. Now, he does have a no movement clause, so he would have to approve a trade, but I could see Hamonic be a good 7th, 6th defenseman on a cup contending team, so I could see Hamonic be moved. Besides that, what if they were to possibly trade Thomas Chabot? There's been a lot of talk about that. I know that Elliot Friedman's mentioned this on a 30 Thoughts blog, saying that they have no interest in trading Thomas Chabot right now, but they have 2 really good left shot defensemen right now, and Jacob Chychrun and Jake Sanderson. If they were able to extend Chychrun, they would have to pay him probably between like $6.5 and $8 million. If they were to extend and keep him, they're already paying Sanderson $8 million. Dude, really only paying 3 left shot defensemen $8 million for the next long term. So if the Ottawa Senators are sellers, could they look to move Chabot? He's got this year plus 4 more seasons at an $8 million cap hit. He's a decent left shot defenseman. He's a really good top 4 defenseman. I could definitely see some teams have interest in him. It would be a really hard trade to make work in season given the cap space that a lot of teams don't have. But in the off season especially, if they were to possibly try and do a quick retool here, try and fix this roster up a little bit, get a new head coach and try and make another run at the playoffs next year if they aren't able to make the playoffs this year, would they consider moving Thomas Chabot? If they're able to move Thomas Chabot, I could see him get like a first round pick and a decent player and maybe even a decent prospect in return. So like I said, he's a really good left shot defenseman, but once Chychrun gets his new extension, if he does with the Ottawa Senators, they're probably going to be paying 3 defensemen over $7 million on the left side, and that really doesn't leave a whole bunch of cap space for the players on the right side. So if they really do want to try and do this, I could see him possibly move Chabot. But besides Chabot, I don't really see him having too much other opportunity for players to be moved. I think they could move Joseph, Kubalik, and Tarasenko or UFAs. I could definitely see those 2 being moved. Hamonic's a decent 6th, 7th defenseman. I could see him being moved. Brandstrom's been mentioned in trade talks earlier this year. I could see him being moved. So besides those 5, I don't really see any other possibilities for Ottawa Senators, but possibly Thomas Chabot if they were able to find the right trade for him. So it will be interesting to see. But they have Chychrun, they have Sanderson on the left side. Those are 2 really good top 4 defensemen for their future. if they want to sign Chychrun to a new extension, they may have to sacrifice Thomas Chabot to do it. And if they do sacrifice Thomas Chabot, expect them to try and add some pieces in the Thomas Chabot trade. Definitely, I think that the Ottawa Senators, with the way they're playing right now, could wind up being sellers at the deadline, and if so, I think those are some of the players I think they could wind up trading at the deadline. So definitely, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on all of this down in the comment section. What do you think about Ottawa Senators? Are they going to be sellers this year? If so, does Tarasenko get moved? Kubalik, Joseph, Brandstrom, Hamonic? Could they move Thomas Chabot either right now or in the offseason? And if they are to move Thomas Chabot, what sort of a trade package do you think they would try and get for him? Definitely have to hear your thoughts on that. What do you think about the Devils? Will Hamilton's $9 million be placed in long-term injury reserve and be kept there until the playoffs? And if they are able to keep Hamilton's $9 million on the long-term injury reserve until the playoffs, what sort of players do they go after? Do they go after Barrie, Tanev, or D'Angelo, or possibly someone else on the defensive end? Do they go after Gibson or Allen, or possibly someone else on the goaltending end? I think that would definitely make a defensive and a goalie upgrade, so definitely have to hear your thoughts on that. What do you think about the Edmonton Oilers? Is it possible Broberg gets moved in a Jack Campbell trade? If so, do you think he would be the only thing that would go in a Jack Campbell trade? Or do you think there would have to be even more added to a possible Jack Campbell trade? Or do you think Campbell's still more likely to be traded in an upgrade for their defense or their goaltending? Or do you think Broberg's more likely to be just traded for like a pick or a young prospect who's not doing really well? Definitely have to hear your thoughts on that. Do you see Kuzmenko going to the Washington Capitals? If so, do you think he'd be a really good fit there? I think he would be a very good fit on like the second line, first power play unit, would be a really good goal scorer. Will the Canucks trade him at this point in time? I would say no. I'm leaning towards no, but I could see eventually, if he continues to be healthy scratch, I could see him wind up being moved, so we'll be interested to see there. And what else do you think about the injury updates, the waiver updates, and the Hutchinson sign? Definitely love to hear your guys' thoughts on all of that down in the comment section. But that's all I want to talk about for today. Remember to like this video, and if you're like to subscribe down below. We've hit 200 subscribers. Thank you for all of your support. I would have never been able to do it without you guys. So don't forget to continue to subscribe so we hit 250 subscribers. I also have a blog talking about news, rumors, analysis, stuff like that. So definitely check that out. I'll leave a link to that in the description below. Remember, there's no video on Saturday. We're going to be doing a couple of pre-recorded videos. So we're going to take a week off. Next Thursday, we're going to have a game review recap. And then next Saturday, we're going to go back into our regular 2 videos a day setup. So interesting to see. We're gonna have a couple of pre-recorded videos over the next week, so stay tuned for that. But I'd love to see you guys for next week's video on Thursday. See you guys soon.